Hi, my name is Frank Ward, and the title of this video is The Hidden Message of the Great Pyramid is Revealed. Basically, the material in this video is excerpted from the book that my father and I wrote, which is entitled The Truth Against the World, Red Phoenix Rising and the Return of the Thunder Gods, by Francis Joseph Ward, that's my father, and Francis Patrick Ward. Our book is available as an inexpensive ebook from our website, which is www.thetruthagainsttheworld.net. Last week I was listening to the Alex Jones radio show on Infowars.com when a young man called in with a very interesting observation. This young man had been a long-term listener of the show, and he had talked his father into becoming a regular listener of the show. And after the father had become a regular listener for a while, he stopped listening to the radio show, and the son wanted to know why. And the father explained to his son that the Alex Jones show left him in a state of despair because the show brought up problems all the time, but the show did not propose solutions. My father and I have overcome these obstacles in our book, and we have solved these puzzles. In our book, we have solved the greatest mysteries in the history of the human race, including the identification of the senior branch of the family of Jehovah, King David, and Jesus Christ, and all the ancient dying gods who ever walked the earth. Unlike that father's complaint about the Alex Jones show, our book is very explicit in proposing solutions, and we have proven that the solutions to mankind's toughest and most intractable problems have been hardwired into the ground plan of the pyramids at Giza, and according to the Dead Sea Scrolls, when the Messiah returns, he is going to declare a Jubilee Year. In our book, we have laid out a detailed and historically proven plan to overthrow the criminal tyranny of the New World Order and save the world. The political and economic turmoil that engulfs the world today is part of a 5,000-year-long reign of terror by the world's rich, wealth-hoarding elites, known today as the New World Order, to assert their criminal control over the world's land and natural resources, especially oil. According to Hindu prophecy, before the Kalki incarnation of Vishnu comes back to save the world, the rulers of the earth will have degenerated into plunderers, which is exactly what we are seeing with the New World Order today. Back in the 19th century, the French economist Frederick Bastiat wrote, "When plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men living together in a society, they will create for themselves, over the course of time, a legal code that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it." And that's exactly what we are seeing with the New World Order today. The reason why the New World Order is trying to jam Islam down our throats, the reason why Islam is the favorite religion of the New World Order, is because under Sharia, under Islamic law, looting and piracy are legal, and Muhammad himself glorified looting and piracy through his concept of jihad. And of course, looting and piracy and glorification of looting and piracy is exactly what the New World Order is all about. That's why they're trying to jam Islam down our throats today. The solutions to mankind's current problems and the keys to overthrowing the criminal tyranny of the New World Order may be summarized as follows. First, the key to saving the world is contained in the first line of the American Declaration of Independence, where the American people declared their national sovereignty based upon the laws of nature and nature's God. This is the ancient notion that God and the law of God may be discovered in nature, in creation, as opposed to the warp and woof of someone's limited personal experiences or false supernatural revelations that are whispered into a phony prophet's ears. If Almighty God reveals himself to man through nature, then supernatural revelations, like God appearing to Moses in a burning bush or God whispering his truth into Muhammad's ears, are exposed as abominable frauds, and the laws of nature and nature's God can therefore end the global Islamic jihad. As a corollary to the laws of nature and nature's God, in ancient times mankind solve the problem of the inequitable division of land and natural resources via a periodic declaration of economic renewal known as the Jubilee Year, which entailed clean slate debt forgiveness and a redistribution of the land and natural resources. In Leviticus 25:23, Almighty God says, "Thou shalt not sell the land forever, for the land is mine, and ye are but travelers and sojourners with me." With this edict from ancient land law, "Thou shalt not sell the land forever," we are finally getting to the source of the worst crime that has ever been committed against the human race. The criminal rich, rent-seeking few, have cut off and deprived the vast majority of the human race from access to the God-given land and natural resources that all of mankind needs to live upon. For example, today, 5 extended families in the Middle East control about 60% of the world's oil. And really the only reason why those 5 families are in power is because of the military might of the United States. But did those 5 families create that oil? Or did Almighty God create that oil? And is that oil a great gift from Almighty God to provide for the energy needs of all of His children, and not just the craven, corrupt, wealth-hoarding few? Over the past 5,000 years, however, the rich plutocrats who control the world have partitioned and divided up the natural world amongst themselves, and they have blocked the poor and the dispossessed from access to the land and natural resources that all of mankind needs to live upon. All over the world, the rich oligarchs have planted their flags in the ground, and they have asserted, "This land is mine, this water is mine, this coal is mine, this oil is mine," in clear violation of the natural law of God, because God created these natural resources to provide for the material needs of all of His children, and not just the craven, corrupt, wealth-hoarding few. The global depression is the inexorable result of the inherently fraudulent Anglo-American banking system, which is a criminal pyramid scheme, a Ponzi scheme, based upon debt to a private banking cartel. The key to ending the global depression is to reform the monetary and credit system as a public utility, and not as the private property of the world's financial elites. And finally, free trade is a globalist fraud that doesn't work. And in order to restore the manufacturing and industrial base of the American economy, we need to reinstitute the old American system of protective tariffs. After the United States Constitution was first ratified, the first legislation that Congress ever passed was the Tariff Act of 1789. Over the years, the United States of America had the most prolific economy in the world because we had the most protected economy in the world. And in order to rebuild our manufacturing and industrial base, we need to reinstitute that old American system of protective tariffs. For the balance of this video, we're going to concentrate on the Jubilee Year of clean slate debt forgiveness and redistribution of the land and natural resources, which has been hardwired into the ground plan of the pyramids at Giza. And according to the Dead Sea Scrolls, when the Messiah returns, He is going to declare a Jubilee Year. The Great Pyramid of Egypt has been called the Bible in stone, and according to an ancient Arab legend, the Great Pyramid contains the past and future history of the world. Indeed, the solutions to mankind's toughest and most intractable problems have been symbolically written into the ground plan of the pyramids at Giza. In ancient times, mankind solved the problem of the inequitable division of land and natural resources via a periodic declaration of economic renewal known as the Jubilee Year. The Jubilee Year of clean slate debt forgiveness and redistribution of the land and natural resources has been hardwired into the ground plan of the pyramids at Giza, and according to the Dead Sea Scrolls, when the Messiah returns, He is going to declare a Jubilee Year. Moreover, Jesus Christ Himself tried to reestablish the ancient tradition of the Jubilee Year. In the Gospel of Luke, chapter 4, Jesus tries to reestablish the Jubilee Year. Economist Dr. Michael Hudson of the University of Missouri described the provisions of the ancient Jubilee Year. Quote, "There developed throughout the ancient Near East a tradition of clean slate edicts which proclaimed justice or decreed economic order and righteousness by canceling debts and restoring forfeited land to farmers. Clean slate proclamations date almost as early as the first interest-bearing debt, starting in Sumer around 2400 BC. Eventually, this tradition became known as the Jubilee Year. Radical as the idea of the Jubilee might seem to modernize, these restorations of order were a conservative tradition in Bronze Age Mesopotamia for 2,000 years. What was conserved was self-sufficiency for the rural family heads who made up the infantry, as well as the productive base of Near Eastern economies. Conversely, what was radically disturbing in archaic times was the idea of unrestrained wealth-seeking. It took thousands of years for the idea of progress to become inverted, to connote irreversible freedom for the wealthy to deprive the peasantry of their lands and personal liberty. The clean slate tradition was so central to Israelite moral values that it framed the composition of both the Old and the New Testaments. In the United States today, elections are determined by powerful moneyed interests who finance the political campaigns of both political parties, and the legislation that is enacted by the federal government is written by these aristocratic elites to serve their own narrow special interests. In ancient times, however, the primary job of the ruler was to resist the undue influence of the aristocratic class and to administer justice by declaring a Jubilee Year of clean slate debt forgiveness and redistribution of the land and natural resources. According to Dr. Hudson, quote, "A ruler's function was to rule, that is, to administer equity in the land. The major way to rule was to proclaim order, above all by canceling debts, at least once every 30 years. This tradition was phased out by biblical times as kings came to represent the wealthy nobility, rather than being their overseers or antagonists, as in Bronze Age Mesopotamia. In the late Bronze Age, however, this ancient social order was overthrown by rich oligarchs who hoarded the land and who refused to forgive the debts of the poor. The land became closed off to most of the people, and the poor became debt slaves. According to Dr. Hudson, these landless and dispossessed debt slaves became the Haparu, the Hebrews. Most historians have profoundly misunderstood the central issue that incited the biblical conquest of the Holy Land. According to Dr. Hudson, the House of Israel protected the God-given rights of the poor to access the land against the depredations of the rich who wanted to hoard and plunder the land. Quote, "The Israelites are portrayed as having made a covenant to protect the economically weak by holding the land as God's gift to support a free rural population." In Leviticus 25:23, Almighty God says, "Thou shalt not sell the land forever, for the land is mine, and ye are but travelers and sojourners with me." According to the Dead Sea Scrolls, when the Messiah returns, he is going to declare a Jubilee year. Moreover, in Luke chapter 4, Jesus Christ himself tried to reestablish the ancient tradition of the Jubilee year.